So it would appear that after his little sabbatical and mental health break, Freedom Tower's got a new job.
大家给我们小赛教练的祝福，我们已经给他看了，他非常开心，也感谢大家一直以来的关注和支持。
Thank you so much, I appreciate it, and hopefully I can be back in a car soon.
Hooray! Which is actually really good to hear, especially following him dropping out of his ELMS drive. However, as he's now in a coaching job, I have seen some comments along the lines of, what success has he actually had in motorsport that's worth him coaching other people? So I thought I'd prove that he has actually been a very successful driver. This is my defense of Logan Sargeant. He made it to Formula 1. Like, video over, enough said. Okay, but like, seriously, if people are generally doubting how good you have to be to even just make it to F1 or become any type of professional athlete these days, even if you are a pay driver, please just remember to scavenge. Fun fact, there have only been about 781 F1 drivers in history, and while there are people who have deserved to be that just didn't make it due to lack of funding, bad timing, no connections, or just pure plain bad luck, having just made it through all the junior formula, with or without a championship, is no easy feat. Speaking of which, Freedom Tower's 0 championships in the lower formula does not reflect the caliber of those drives. He really came into his own in F3, and it's a case to be made that he should have won the 2020 F3 championship instead of Piastri. Sure, he was still quite crash prone, and that cost him a decent amount of points and arguably that championship, but if him and Sindelli hadn't fucked each other on the opening lap of that last race, there's a pretty decent chance he would have been the 2020 F3 champion. But hey, that's just racing sometimes.
Yeah, but I mean, it's always if, right? If my mom had balls, she would be my dad, so... Yeah.
You know, like, if your aunt had balls, she'd be your uncle, but she doesn't, so she's not. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
His third year in F3 the following year was also very impressive. He went from Prema to Caruso Racing, well, the year before was the worst team in Formula 3. So what does he do? He goes to and gets 4 podiums, including the team's first F3 win, and finished 7th overall in the standings. A really good season in comparison to the machinery that he was in. I could go on and talk about his P4 in the 2022 F2 standings, his 2 wins in the Le Mans Cup, and his pole position in the European Le Mans Series, but you get the point by now. Sargo had some genuine pace in the lower series, but he just crashed out a lot, and I think that's just always been the story with him. And it's also been reflected in his F1 career. He was at a struggling Williams with a very competent driver in the form of Alex Albon next to him. Just look at the way he's beating Sainz. But at the end of the day, his high profile and very expensive crashes really were just a nail in the head in his racing career, at least at that level. To put it simply, Sargeant just wasn't cut out to be at the top, and he simply just wasn't ready yet, at least for F1. However, he's definitely ready for another drive elsewhere. He's got the pace in him somewhere, and you don't get to F1 or have that junior career if you don't. There are some other drivers like Mick Schumacher or Nicholas Latifi who, when they got up to F1, struggled a lot, but had very successful junior careers, like Mick Schumacher winning F2 and Nicholas Latifi coming runner-up. You don't achieve all of this unless you have something that's worth nurturing, some kind of talent that's there. There are plenty of failed F1 drivers who have done really well in these other series. Again, if we look at Mick Schumacher, who's doing really well in the World Endurance Championship, or Antonio Giovinazzi, who won the 24 Hours of Le Mans, or Marcus Ericsson, who's doing very well in Indy and has won an Indy 500. I'm sure if Sargeant wanted to, he could go over to one of these series, and he would thrive. So yes, Sargeant did have a lot of success, and he can coach others to achieve. But more importantly than that, he has experience getting back in a car and trying again after royally fucking it into a barrier. And I think that's more important. After all, Niki Lauda did say,
because I tell you from my own experience, winning is one thing, but out of losing, I always learned more for the future.
So I'm sure he's learnt plenty. Thank you very much for watching, and let's pray for Freedom Tower's return. See you in the next one.